Welcome back to another episode of DEC Does What? I'm Sean Mahar along with
Erica Ringwald.
And today we're excited to be talking to two of our environmental conservation police officers for Team DEC. So Erica, who do we have on the show today?
We have ECO Mary Frano and we have ECO Craig Tompkins joining us from DEC's Region 3, which spans the Hudson Valley.
Welcome to the show, you two.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
So let's begin. Environmental conservation police officers. So DEC has an actual police force here. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. So, we're full state police officers. That's kind of a common misconception that we get a lot. People think that we can't enforce every state law that there is. So we're out there on the road, driving around, and but we're focusing on the environmental crimes within the state every day. A lot of proactive patrol, looking for fishermen, hunters, that type of activity. But also we take and handle quite a bit of phone calls from the public for whatever concerns that they may have.
Everything from poachers and polluters, I believe our website says.
That is correct. Yes, I think a lot of people have the misconception that maybe we are just game wardens, so that's all we do is deer and fish. Obviously, that's not true. You know, we deal with everything from oil spills to accidents to outreaches, hunting events, a lot of different stuff. So I think also people forget that we are state police officers, that we can pull people over for speeding, for running stop signs, any other violation that a local police officer also does.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a story on that one. So I was out on patrol, traveling across 84, and there's a car in front of me, weaving in and out, and I could see he's on his cell phone. So initiate the traffic stop, kind of doesn't stop for a minute, eventually does, and he's on his phone still, and he's like, "You can't pull me over, you're not a real police officer." I was like, okay.
Hate to break it to you.
And he's like, "I'm calling 911, and I was like, "Please do, that's fine." So over his Bluetooth speaker in the car, I hear the 911 dispatcher, "911, what's your emergency?" He's like, "Oh, I'm getting pulled over, and it's not a real police officer, he's at my window." Leaned in, I was like, "Hey, it's Officer Tompkins, State Conservation Police, Shield 614. And they were like, "Oh yeah, Tompkins, we were just talking to you. And everything all right?" I just kind of looked in the window and said, "Everything all right, sir?" And he's like, "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir." So,
That is awesome. So I will say personal history myself too. I actually, when I was in college, wanted to become an environmental conservation police officer. And the reason why is because I grew up reading the Conservationist magazine. And one of the first things I would always turn to were the brieflies. And I would always love to read about all the fun things that you were catching people doing out in the environment. It's sort of that sort of voyeuristic aspect of it. But it was one that gave me great pride to know that you were on the real front lines of conservation, really helping to protect the environment and make sure that we were catching people who were doing wrong by the environment. So always took really great pride, wanted to be that myself. And now it's an honor to be here representing you in this agency and hearing some of your stories. So talk about the history of ECO. So you're the oldest police force in the state, is that right?
That's correct, yes. So since 1880, a lot of people don't realize that. They think that we're something, newer. They said it originally started off as just game wardens. They're mainly focused on hunting, fishing laws. But now, as times have changed with more chemicals, pollution, whether it's air, soil, it's just become a lot more environmental quality concerns that the public has also on top of hunting and fishing.
So talk to us about the training that goes into this. I assume there has to be a robust training academy.
Yes.
it's quite rigorous.
Yes.
It's takes a while to go through the process. It all starts with that civil service test, and then from there you get canvassed for your interests, go through a physical ability test, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. Full background packet, very heavy on the investigation. They dig up things that you probably haven't even told anybody before, and then they ask you about it, and you're like, "Hey, how'd you find out about that? I've never told anybody about this." So it's quite the process to even just get to the point of the academy. I know Mary's involved with our academy pretty heavily, so.
Yep, so actually, Craig and I were out of the same academy class, and today's our anniversary.
That's right.
For
Oh,
that,
happy
9 years.
Congratulations.
Yes.
9 years of day one.
Yeah. So like you said, it does start with the civil service test. The next is the PT test, so your fitness test. I'm a PT instructor for the academy, so you do sit-ups, push-ups, and swimming. So that's kind of make sure I tell people always practice, because you get in there and everybody's staring at you and you want to, get your nerves out and having everybody watching you do your sit-ups and push-ups. background investigation is very thorough. So I always tell people, make sure you stay out of trouble at a young age, but be very honest about it if something did happen, because our investigators will find out everything that you've done. And from there, it's just kind of, if you get through all that process, then you finally go to the academy. And it's a wonderful, rewarding experience, but it's also very strenuous. We're just talking about that, how hard it can be being away from your family. But it's kind of a good, rewarding thing when you're done. You're like,
Made it through.
this has been amazing. So it's
very paramilitary style drill instructors, what you see in the movies with screaming and yelling and lots of push-ups and that type of activity, ripping rooms apart, all the fun stuff like that. But in the end, it serves a purpose, gets you where you need to be. Because most of the time we're by ourselves out in the field. We can encounter hunters and in big groups, large numbers, and we'll be by ourselves. So they want to make sure that our officers who are making it through this academy can handle themselves in any situation and be prepared. So they want to make sure that you're mentally fit and physically fit to go ahead and handle any situation that you may encounter.
So let's say you have a, 17-year-old. What would you sort of tell them to focus on if they wanted to pursue a career as an ECO?
It varies. I mean, previously, before, was it last year, for the civil service test to qualify to take it, you needed some type of environmental credits. But now they did away with that, and you can have any degree. So you can still pursue anything that kind of piques interests, but then have this as an option to still qualify to take it. So there's a bunch of different options. The first one, obviously, is a 4-year bachelor's degree. And then from there, you can do a 2 years associate's degree, and you need to have other requirements with that as well. Time on with another police agency, military experience with an honorable discharge, or qualifying work experience. So there's a bunch of education
and the
options out there.
sit-ups and the push-ups and the swimming.
Stay fit. Stay fit. All right.
So let's talk origin stories. You two were in the same class. Why did you both want to become an ECO? Mary, let's start with you.
That's a good question. So my life story is a little bit different than most people. So I actually went to the academy in my mid-30s. So I had another career before that. I worked in the motorcycle industry. Loved it, but I still had I had a background in environmental sciences. I still wanted to do more, just educate youth, kind of be involved more. So I've always been following the DEC. I knew some DEC officers, and I was like, I really want to get into that. And took the test, focused on that, and I was here, and I wouldn't change anything either. It was nice having a background in a different industry, having customer service experience, just working with the public in a different sort of way, learning about the environment on the motorcycle industry also. Where does the oil go? Recycling batteries, tires, all of that was kind of interesting too that I can apply to my job today.
So do you get to ride a motorcycle now with your job?
No, unfortunately, no.
Oh, Mary, let's work
I
together.
know. We need to work on this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Apparently, we used to have motorcycles,
Yes,
right?
yeah. See, I have to add something in, so I forgot about this part. I was actually a civilian here in DEC.
Oh.
So I was here for about 3 years, and I worked in real property and loved it. Got to see how DEC works, especially here in central office. So, and it's also helped me in my job with, property line disputes, state land, how state land's acquired. Got to know wonderful people and, wildlife, and kind of it's nice being able to work with them now, too.
Nice.
So I always tell people, especially when you're starting out young, just get involved, kind of see what you want to do. You never want to be stuck in a job that you're kind of like, oh, I wish I didn't do this or wish I did try out this. So it's always, doesn't hurt to try out different positions, shadow people. We offer some ride-along programs for people in college. Just talk to people. We love to talk about our job. Kids can always call us up, say, hey, what do you like about this? What do you don't like about your job? We can kind of show them the ropes of what's involved every day. Yeah.
Craig, what's your story?
Probably very similar to most officers that are on with us. I grew up in the lower Hudson Valley, and I grew up hunting and fishing with my father and my brothers, and just kind of grew that love for the outdoors. And through the years, we were checked by some conservation officers, and always in the back of my head, I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool job, looks interesting, get to be outside a lot. And then in high school, learned about ESF, Environmental Science and Forestry School up in Syracuse, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool school. So I applied there. It's the one and only school that I applied to. My parents were not too happy with that. So went there for 4 years, came out with a bachelor's in aquatic and fishery science, pretty unique. But while I was in school there, an ECO actually came into one of our general courses and gave a pretty in-depth presentation about what this job entails. And from that point, I was like, yep, that's where I want to be. So I came out of school, worked on the Hudson River for a private environmental consultant company for 6 years. And then once the test came up, I took it first chance I could, and luckily made it through on my first go.
Interested in becoming an ECO? You can sign up to get notified when the next exam is offered, along with details on other state exams, by going to the New York State Civil Service website. Visit cs.ny.gov for more information.
So, Craig, you just mentioned, wanting to be outside. So are you outside every day?
Almost every single day, yeah. Especially, depends on the season. During hunting season, I'll be out walking woods and scouting for our purposes. And then it just, you can that's the beautiful thing about this job is the amount of freedom that we do have to kind of pursue and look for things and violations in different aspects of what we cover. So you can really kind of dive into what piques your interests.
So, speaking of the other two seasons that you didn't mention, winter and summer, where are you sort of focused during those times of year?
Winter this year down by us actually had really good ice. So it was a lot of ice fishing, walked a ton of ice
First
this
time
year.
in a couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been unusual. So everybody's itching to get out right now.
Yep.
And obviously we preach ice safety, thickness of ice, but luckily we have a ton of ice in Ulster County that I've never seen so many people out. So it's been wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. And if we don't have ice, then there's other things that we handle, heavy-duty diesel trucks, and you can look into a lot of the environmental quality things that we handle. And then summertime is a lot of boat patrols and getting out and just looking for fishermen, that type of stuff. But again, the environmental quality stuff is always there as well.
So I know Hudson Valley, and one of the big issues we're tracking down there is illegal dumping. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we approach that from an environmental standpoint?
It's a tough situation. Those are we have some great folks down in Region 3 that have really started to learn how the business operates, how the business side of things operate in that type of solid waste activity. So they're really starting to pick up on their trends and looking for patterns and areas that they've been working in to try and focus enforcement efforts.
Yeah, so we also have a lot of young, motivated officers that are just out of the academy, and they are very eager to be out working. They like to work, different hours, try to be out there when these activities are going on, maybe in the middle of the night, early morning hours. We have program staff that we work with hand in hand that are involved with that, so we try to be very proactive in our area. I'd say another thing is just relying on the public, too.
Yep.
We get a lot of phone calls in, tips come in from our dispatch line, people call our work phones, just gives us information on that. So that's something we always tell people, make sure to call us early when you have complaints. Don't wait a week or a month, because then it's kind of hard to track down things. If there's an issue you're concerned about, give us a call. We have somebody that answers phones 24 hours a day here in Albany, and just pass along the information.
And Mary, what is that number that people should call?
That's wonderful to know. It's going to be 1-844-DEC ECOs. And like you said, we do have somebody that answers the phone 24 hours a day. That's nights, weekends, holidays, whenever. So a lot of misconceptions are that we only work Monday through Fridays, but our officers, we have our work cell phones on us all the time. Somebody is always going to answer the phone. Take down your information. They'll see who is available, and usually an officer is able to respond.
That's it. Check out dec.ny.gov for more information of where you can find your local ECOs, find that hotline number as well, and help us make sure that we're reporting those environmental crimes so our ECOs can get out there and check them out.
I want to switch gears here real quick. I want to ask you both your most memorable case that you've worked on without revealing any details.
That would be subject to litigation.
That would be subject to litigation.
And really upset our lawyers.
I've been involved in quite a few. One that really sticks out to me was pretty early on in my career. It was actually during my FTO period, my training period with my training officer. And he gets a phone call pretty early on. It was almost right around the first week. And he's just on the phone. Really? Okay. All right, yeah, we'll go check it out. I'm like thinking to myself, sweet, got a call, getting into the action. He turns to me, he's like, all right, we just got a call. There's a guy down in Verplank walking an alligator down the road on a leash.
Sure.
And I was like, funny, messing with the new guy, haha, breaking me in, got it. And he's like, no, like, seriously, like, let's head down to Westchester. And I was like, okay, all right, this is happening. So we got down there. Unfortunately, he was gone by the time we got there, but people were able to show us pictures of him walking down, did some digging, found out who he was. Turns out he was permitted by us to have the animals that he did have, but he was working outside of his permit, so there were some issues there. Spoke with him. Fast forward a couple of years, he ended up getting himself in trouble with some illicit substances, going away for a period of time. And the landlord, where he had all of these animals, called us up and was like, hey, you guys permitted to have these things? You got to figure out what to do with them all. So he brought us into the room where he had everything, and inside there was 6-foot alligator, couple pythons that were 14, 15 feet long, all sorts of snakes, turtles, tortoises, you name it, he had it in there. And we worked with zoos and rehabbers and other, agencies to try and rehome everything, and eventually everything found a new home, and it really worked out. So
Wow.
it was quite the interesting case to be involved with pretty early on. So, and then just to see it go full circle was pretty cool too.
Mary, how about you?
So I have some really good stories that are not criminal in nature, but more of just outreach with youth hunts. So I've been involved with a lot of programs where kids, it's their first time hunting for a turkey, a goose, a deer, and just the excitement in their eyes, especially with young females taking them out hunting for the first time. And they're like, wow, I get to actually work with a female officer too. It's not just the old men of the hunting club.
No offense, guys.
Sorry. But just seeing the excitement in the eyes and just being like, wow, I was actually able to harvest this animal, do everything on my own, go back, process it, even cook up the meat afterwards has been an awesome experience. And I still have
great.
some videos and stuff from some of the females are with, like the first turkey a girl got, the first time she missed.
Yeah.
And she was super bummed
And
out.
turkeys are hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she was bummed out. I'm like, it's okay. I told her how I've missed before. So we sit there and wait a little bit. About 20 minutes later, the same turkey comes back because he loved our decoys and her calling, came back, and she was able to harvest him the second time she shot at him. So she was, redeemed herself. She was very proud of herself, and now she's hooked on it. Still, 5-6 years later, she's still turkey hunting every year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So 9 years, what's been the most challenging part of the job for you?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Really, where my challenge comes in is I love to get out and try and enforce the fishing and the hunting regulations. And for me, I have to check like every spot that's popular, every spot that I know is a hotbed for activity, and just maybe not being able to get there or knowing that something's going on and I can't respond fast enough. That's probably the hardest part for me, is just knowing that something's going on and not being able to address it because of how far I am away, or, just timing wise, it happens that they miss them. I get there too late, they just left, and, I don't have enough information to go on. So those are always tough ones for me. I always sit and overthink it afterwards and try and Monday morning quarterback it, and, just trying to rethink what I would have done different and how, better I should have handled it. So,
Yeah, just especially because we're limited on numbers. Sometimes it's hard to respond to everybody. Sometimes complaints come in at the same time. Prioritizing, who are you going to go after first? Which could be the most productive part of your day? Because sometimes a response could be an hour away, that you're not able to help out somebody. Maybe you missed somebody, but then you just hope maybe you can catch them later on.
They do have a habit of coming back.
That is very true.
very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in addition to the routine police work that you do, how are some of the other ways that you're getting
It's never
engaged with
routine.
communities?
Aren't you hearing
Oh,
that?
yeah, you're right.
You never truly know what's going to come in a life of an ECO.
That's what
true.
makes it cool.
Exactly. So what are some of the other ways, though, that you interact with the communities?
Our agency has a ton of different teams in it, kind of built within the division. I'm personally on our recruitment team, so I go out and speak with the public almost on a daily basis, really. I just did an outreach last Tuesday. Then next week I have one Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm out in high schools, colleges. I've given guest lectures at some colleges down in Westchester County, Pace University, Mercer University, down there talking to those, but also going into elementary schools. I just did one with the Cub Scouts. So really just kind of a broad range, trying to get our name out there, let people know who we are, what we do, have a good first encounter with us. So that way, if they do see us on the road, they're like, oh, that's right. I can, recall those memories and, I know who that is, and kind of just build that. But also by doing these, I'm immersing myself in our community, and people know my name, which is cool. They're like, oh yeah, I talk to Tompkins all the time, and they get my cell phone number or email address and set things up, and it's nice to be that immersed in the community.
What are the most common questions you get from the kids when you're interacting with like Cub Scouts and young folk?
Those are always interesting.
Yes. So actually, I had this past weekend, I did a group for some Boy Scouts, and the questions they come up with are very amusing, but they're very serious about it. So you have to come up with an answer too. A lot of things were, how do you get your car? Because the kid wanted to buy my car right there. So I'm like, no, I don't think you can do that. Just a lot about training, about equipment, just the process. But it's refreshing sometimes talking to a kid and just what their insight is to what we do as a job. And it was just amusing. This one kid, he wanted to buy my car. He wanted to buy my uniform because he thought it was the coolest thing. Was really amused with just some of my stories about different bears that I've come encountered with, especially snakes in the Hudson Valley. But it's awesome working with kids.
It's fun. So speaking of working with others, you are state police. How do you work with the New York State Police? And is that something you routinely do? And do you collaborate with them on cases?
Hand in hand, almost daily. Again, it depends on what you encounter on the road. I've gotten to know a lot of the agencies, state police, county sheriffs, local PDs. Almost every single one in my area has my number, and they'll call me with the strangest questions. They're like, we have no idea what this is. It has anything to do with the environment. We're calling you. And they'll call me with some ones that are some good stumpers, but, eventually we get them some answers and can help them out. But we do work really, really hand in hand with them on an almost daily basis.
Yeah, like I said, we are sworn state police officers, so we're able to enforce any other New York State law. So a lot of times we're just on patrol, and we're monitoring 911 on the radio, the local sheriff's channel on the radio. There's a lot of times I've been the first on scene for an accident, sometimes for domestic disputes. I've had a lot of weird accidents where I've had yogurt spills, I've had milk spills. There was one time recently a truck was hauling corn, and driving down the road, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of dust out here. Driving down a main road, and all of a sudden I see all these pebbles all across the road. It ended up being corn. So there was several tons of corn that spilled out in the roadway, and I was the first there. I called out to 911, and I'm like, I'm here right now. So it was an interesting process cleaning that up with DOT. But like you said, we're listening to 911 all the time, responding to those calls if we happen to be the closest unit for them.
And it's not even other state police or other police agencies. I was driving down the road one day, and there was a local DPW that had their car parked in the middle of the road, flashers on, a couple guys out in front of the truck, and it looked like they were doing something. And they see me pull up, and they're like, oh, perfect, you're just the guy we want to see. And I'm like, oh, boy, what do we got here? And come around the front of the truck, and a couple guys are trying to corral a skunk. And I'm like, this isn't going to end well.
No.
And I look at the skunk, and there's a yogurt cup stuck on its head. But somehow they were able to manage to cut the bottom of the yogurt cup off so they could actually let the skunk breathe or whatever. And so the little skunk is just looking around out of this cone. It looked like a dog with a cone on its head. And they were like, we don't want to touch it. We don't know what to do. It's an animal. This is your world. So they all looked at me to do something, and I was just kind of like, all right.
That's a stinky situation.
I'm like, what do I got in my truck that I can kind of help myself here? So eventually I just kind of said, well, I'm going to go for it and see what happens, and grabbed some gloves out of my truck, got in front of the skunk, kept the spraying end away from me, just kind of grabbed it by the scruff and just worked the cup off its head, and eventually it popped right off, and I was able to guide the skunk away, and nobody got sprayed, luckily.
So bath and tomato juice for
no.
you.
My gloves were a little stinky, but not too bad. I was very, very happy that it worked out that way. So you really, like I said, never know what you're going to roll across.
So I do have one final question for you before we close down the show today. So we have environmental conservation police officers, and we also have forest rangers at DEC. Both are police officers, but really, what's the difference?
That is a great question. So we get this asked a lot. So they are brothers and sisters in green. They wear a very similar uniform to us, but their focus is a little bit different. It's on search and rescue and fire suppression, and we are more on environmental quality, hunting, fishing type laws. We do work hand in hand with them on a lot of projects. especially because things occur on state land that they're patrolling. So they're a great resource that we have, but we do work hand in hand with them. So we do have some differences what our core mission is. Like I said, rangers are focused on search and rescue, especially people that are hiking that are lost, also fire suppression in New York State and outside of New York State and other states. Like I said, our focus is on environmental quality, hunting and fishing laws, but we do work hand in hand a lot with each other.
That's great. Well, Mary and Craig, thanks for being on the show today, really telling us more about the life and times of Environmental Conservation Police Officer. Please do check out dec.ny.gov for more information on your local ECO, how to become an Environmental Conservation Police Officer. But most importantly, if you see any environmental crimes happening in New York State, please do call 1-844-DEC-ECOS. That's 1-844-DEC-ECOS. And also follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook. We're putting up a lot of content that you and your colleagues are generating across the state. Also check out our weekly ECOs on Patrol, which is a great recap of all the news and stuff that you're happening out in New York. And really appreciate you both being on the show today.
And thank you especially for your continued work to protect New Yorkers, our communities, wildlife, and our natural resources.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement. Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, wildlife technician with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.